Was walking around with an insight this week that was very persistent, and that insight was, you and I signed up for this. Every little bit of it. We signed up for this. When you start to reflect back on your life in every detail, every personality, every family drama, every financial issue, every climbing the corporate ladder or the education, everything, all the relationships, both good and messy, all of the frogs that you kissed, you signed up for this. You and I signed up for everything. And so it's important when I say that and when you hear something like that to stop for a moment and to feel what that feels like inside. To look at where might I be pushing that back and where might I be wanting to create some kind of wiggle room with that insight. In other words, where can I look for the exception to that? Because if we don't like that and subsequently are not willing to make a more advanced choice about that particular phrase, meaning when we don't look at the entirety of our life and bless it, my mentor Louise Hay, the one thing she always stressed with me was this: you have to look back and you have to bless and honor the entirety of your journey. That until we are not able to get to a place of that, then aspects of those journeys will continue to pop up. And what do we tend to do then? We tend to self-medicate, or we tend to revert back to form or what is familiar. We run back to what it is that we know, and we perpetuate the cycle of that discontent and of that disgruntledness and of that uncomfortability. We continue to perpetuate that, and we stay stagnant in that. But when you can stop and you can say, I get it. I signed up for this. There is a rush. There is a rush of energetic power. We call it source energy. We call it God. We call it intelligence. The moment that you say, I don't know, but I'm willing. I'm willing to know. I'm willing to honor every single component. I'm willing to stop making excuses. The moment that we say that, it is as if the download, the vessel, everything that wants to come and play and co-create with us finally has permission. Finally. So you and I signed up for this. All the past, all the present pain, all the angst, all the circumstance, dare we say we called all of that forth in order that we may experience greater degrees of expression and expansion that is patiently waiting right here within us to dance. You and I signed up for this. What is this? Well, we call it life. Life. And life, to me anyway, has become beyond description. It is a playground that is boundless. It is a day-to-day adventure that literally follows the lead of what you and I think. This life, it is this morphic field that responds to the way in which we show up and we choose and we believe and we honor and we integrate and we communicate. It is a conversation. Life is a conversation. And the tone of that conversation and the content of that conversation is constantly being shaped by you and by me. I was drawn to... You ever heard of the Gospel of Thomas? It's one of the Gnostic Gospels. Can you imagine poor Thomas? I'm sorry, I hate to tell you, but you did not make the final cut. It's not in the big book, you know. But the Gospel of Thomas is ecstatically wonderful. It's so wonderful. And there is this sort of controversial, revolutionary scripture in that Gospel of Thomas, in that Gnostic Gospel, that says, if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. Makes you feel warm and fuzzy, doesn't it? What he's saying is, if you continue to deny the inherent greatness inside of yourself, if you continue to try to block the evolutionary path of your soul, if you continue to turn away from the whisper, the dynamic that is calling you to live this bold, genius life, if you continue to say no to that, there is no point then in the conversation of life where that beckoning will stop. And so what will happen is that the way it has to get your attention will only increase. You ever heard of the cosmic 2x4, right? Well, it goes beyond then a 2x4, and it's like a concrete slab hitting you. If you continue to deny the very inherent reason why your soul is here, why you are here, then, in essence, what Thomas is saying, we will only continue to grow more miserable in our smallness. But if you will simply be willing to honor and say, I signed up for this. And because I signed up for this, then everything that I need is perpetually given to me in the right and appropriate time that I need it. Then that which is within us will come forth and it will save us, meaning it will move us into the next realm of expression and the next realm of expression and the next realm of expression, on and on and on, as long as we continue to play in harmony with that. So I went back to some of the other Gospels, the ones that did make it, the Gospel of John. And I was looking in that sacred text, and in there twice, the master teacher Jesus said this. Once he said it to a woman who was being stoned or about to be stoned for adultery. And then he said it again to a man who had just been healed of a disease. And he said, go and sin no more. Now we've come to understand that the word sin means simply mistake. Error in thinking, error in judgment. If you really dive deep below what that means, go and sin no more, it's saying, go, get out of here, and stop repeating the same nonsense over and over again. You know better. Remember I said last week? You know better. There is a knowingness within our consciousness that knows better. So go, move forward, and stop coming back to the familiarity. Stop coming back to the conformity. Stop coming back to the whining and the smallness that we've become accustomed to. Go and sin no more means go and stop. Go and stop. Go and stop. What do you want me to do? I want you to go, and I want you to stop. What he did say, he added to that in terms with the story of the man who had just been healed of the sickness. He said, go and sin no more, lest a worse thing come unto thee. You've already manifested illness, tried to get your attention, tried to show you your worth, tried to show you your value. Go and sin no more, lest, do you want it to come back? Are you going to go back again? There are times in my life when I look at people who have been throughout my journey, who have gone through these major things, and I remember, and even when I didn't have the awareness that I have now, I would sit with them and I would be fascinated because after going through this enormous journey of cancer or bankruptcy or divorce or whatnot, and they would go through all this stuff, go through these trials, and then you would meet with them and they would still be complaining about the same thing. Even after they had become victorious, or even after they had been able to move away from that which had been binding them, they were still stuck in the same conversation that they were in when the issue started to begin with. And you want to go, huh? Really? You took nothing away from that? And we laugh, but you know what? We all do it. We all do it. So easily it is for us to go back to that fear-based thinking, to those conversations, forgetting all of the things that we had been able to be in alignment with the creative power. You sit there today and I tell you to your face, you have forgotten some of the miraculous events that have taken place in your life. Because you burnt your toast this morning. because you can't eat gluten anymore. And you're pissed off about that. Forgetting all of the amazing things that have transpired in your life. Go and sin no more. The other thing that he said in Scripture was, take up thy bed and walk. Bed was habit. Take up your habit. Take up the habit that has burdened you, that has imprisoned you. Take up that habit and walk. Get away from it. Make a new decision. Don't take up and walk away from the habit and then go back and repeat the habit all over again. At what point do we realize that everything that we need is within us? So the message today is live in the feeling. Live in the feeling of what? The feeling that, you ready? Everything has already been created. When we talk about the infinite nature of that which is God, then everything in that infinite nature has already been designed. So everything that you crave, everything that you pray for, everything that you hunger, everything that you wish, everything that you cry over in the privacy of your own life, all of those things are already in form, energetically. And all that you and I must do then is live in the feeling of that and know it and allow it in instead of pushing it away. All of the technology that we adore today, do you not think that the same consciousness, the same mind of that technology didn't exist back in the time of the Stone Age or back during the time of Moses or the Egyptians? All of that technology was there. It's just that the current level of consciousness was not in alignment with it. And as we look at the current consciousness that we are in, and you understand how swiftly that changes when you cooperate with it, then the things that you say that you want are not out of reach. They're already here. Living in the feeling then is, I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to push it away. I'm not going to say, well, everybody else gets that except me. I'm not going to live in the lack and limitation. I'm going to live in the feeling, knowing that it's here. And so I must play the game. And the game is that I must speak, I must be, I must think in that feeling. I must live in that feeling. I must take up my bed and walk into a new expression of feeling if I'm going to create what it is that I want. So there's this whole thing with that about attachment. We have to look at, why do we hang on to some of the things that we hang on to when we know that they bring us pain? I mean, if I sat with you and we really talked about your issues and I say, well, why are you holding on to that? And you'd just go, I don't know. Well, this is the way I am. There's this certain type of monkey trap that was used in Asia. First, a coconut is hollowed out and attached to a rope, which is then attached to a tree. And then there's a small hole that's made in the bottom of the coconut. And through that small hole, they place this sweet food. And the hole in the bottom is just big enough for the monkey to be able to slide his hand in to be able to grab the food. But the thing is that once he slides his hand through the bottom of the coconut and then he makes a fist to grab the food, he can't pull his hand back out. Unless he does what? Let go of the food. And so the amazing thing about that is that they've discovered somehow, some way, that the majority of the monkeys now when they're being hunted, even though they feel the danger, they still refuse to let go of the food. And so they're caught. And I think we're like those monkeys. We know better. But yet we want to hold on to that precious limited story. We want to hold on to what you did to me. We want to hold on to the smallness for some reason, even though we see that what is coming for us then will destroy us, as the Gospel of Thomas said. Because we're denying our freedom. And so we must let go. But it's amazing because in the monkey's thought process, it's very predictable and it's very inflexible. Number one is food is good. Number two, if I hold on to this, I will get food. And number three, the more I hold on to this food, the better of my chances of keeping it. But the reality is, if you let go, you have no idea of the amount of good that is waiting for you and I. But see, in our thinking, no, it's got to be this way. I watched my parents lose everything. It's got to be this way. I had everything stolen from me. I was abandoned. I was used up. I've got to redo it this way. And I'm not going to take my hand out of that coconut. And I don't care how much I love what it is that you say. That does not apply to me. And so what we do not bring forth within us will destroy us. So in order to live in the feeling, there has to be some semblance of non-attachment. What is within you? What is within you? What is within you? What does that mean? It's already there. And it's fascinating. You know, some of us have to travel all across the world, climb mountains, do stupid things. Only to still come to the realization that whatever it is that you seek, that whatever it is that you crave, has already been and always will be inside you. And so at what point do we have to get that? What point, what does it take in order for us to not just hear that, but to absorb it and embody it? I love the writings of this man by the name of Neville Goddard. And it was he this week that his writings really helped what it was that I was thinking of, because he's so blunt. And he says, creation is finished. Creativeness is only a deeper receptiveness for the entire contents of all time and all space, while experienced in a time sequence actually coexist in an infinite and an eternal now. In other words, all that you have ever been or ever will be, in fact, all that mankind ever was or ever will be, exist now. So what do you want? What do you want? And are you willing to sit down with that question and go, well, I signed up for this. I signed up for this so that my soul could come and could prove that principle, that by living in the feeling, that becoming conscious of my choices and the way in which I think, the people I hang out with, what I do for a living, and the way that I approach each and everything, if I live in that feeling, then everything that I say that I crave and want and desire is made manifest. And there's no wiggle room, because what we've come to understand is that is spiritual law. He goes on to say, the fact is that what is meant by this creation and the statement that creation is finished means that nothing is ever to be created. It is only to be manifested. What is called creativeness, then, is only becoming aware of what already is. And I don't know about you, but my awareness increases all the time. Oh, wow. I become more aware of what already is. And don't you love it when that happens? You know, they say that sometimes it takes over 1,000 times for us to hear something or be exposed to an idea before we go, oh, wow, did you just hear that? And I love watching people, because I go, 940. They're almost there. They're so close. No, 500. Ooh, they got a ways to go. But you will say it over and over and over again. Sometimes, of course, it can't come from me. It's got to come from somebody else. Or you've probably said things to your children, and then a teacher will say the same thing, and they'll go, do you know what she said? But that's the way our relationship, this conversation with life is we're just not tuned in. So that means that we're just not tuned in sometimes to the things that we're saying that we're wanting, the solution that is already there. And we're wanting to make it harder. So how best, then, can you and I take this idea that it's all been created, that everything already exists, and that our journey, this game, this conversation that we're having, is all about learning to manifest that which already exists? Then how do you and I play the game at its most optimum? So I looked at that this week, and I trying to find difficult ways to make it complicated so you would appreciate it more. But the best thing is to simply walk around and say thank you. Thank you for everything. Everything that comes to us, just say thank you. Whatever the bill, whatever the size of the bill that comes in the mail, say thank you. Because all of a sudden, I've got goods and services that came in that enhanced my life. To look at the miscommunication, to look at the harboring and the grievances and the judgments and say thank you. Now I see that I'm responsible for that. Now I see that I signed up for that. To look at every single thing from that platform of gratitude and simply to say thank you. What happens when you and I do that? The barriers, the resistance that we have used up until that point, the excuses that we have relied upon up until that point, the way in which we have learned about our mistakes, but we keep coming back and we keep retreading over and over again. All of that suddenly begins to dissolve. And it's as if the windows of heaven, they say, or the consciousness can finally present itself and come in and begin that co-creative process, the creativeness within us, which is simply recognition, which is simply recognizing that which has already been. And so it takes a certain level of daring, I believe, in the human experience, because when you start to live this way, people think you're crazy, or people have opinions, because they took up their bed and they started to walk, but then they fell down and they ran back. They heard the message of go and sin no more, and they tried it, but it was too uncomfortable, so they went back to the fence of familiarity. And that's where all the noise is. That's where all of the people who want to sit with you and talk about, you really should be more careful. You really should hold back. All this you're in a cult. I know it. I'm praying. We're praying for you. But see, you've got to dare. You've got to dare to reach past your normal reactions. Did you hear me? You got to dare to reach beyond your normal reactions, and you have to learn to respond. The response is, thank you. The response is recognizing that it's uncomfortable and still being willing to say, thank you. Imagine your life, the quality of your life, when you start to get that it's already here. Imagine the relief. When you live in the feeling, you're living in the feeling of that freedom. You're living in the feeling of that solution. You're living in the feeling and understanding that when we say something like, I am a child of God, or I am a child of the universe, or I am a vessel for the infinite intelligence to express by, then those words actually have meaning. Because when you dare to live in the feeling, then you understand that you are. Because every single day will show you something that will substantiate that. So there's got to be the non-attachment. And then there's got to be something where you are willing to honor the mystery, to honor the unknown, to be willing to honor that which is unpolished about you. You have to be willing to embrace your naivete. I was looking at a business book this week, a business manual, and it was called Experience Slows You Down. And it was by a Dutch writer named Niels Schold, and he said this, I loved it. He said, what an industry needs is people who have no idea on how it operates. People that don't know that there are any rules. While it is good to break rules and to push boundaries, it's much better to just never know that any rules exist. So when an agency boasts that they have years of experience in the field that your company is working in, run the other way. Because that only means that they know the rules. You need someone who doesn't. You need to let go of the rules that your family told you. You're welcome. You need to let go of the rules that your doctor said about something being chronic. You need to let go of people who say, wow, you've been through so much. You need to guard your heart. You need to be careful because there's wolves out there. You need to be willing to put yourself out in a level of vulnerability and naivete as if it is the first time that you have ever entered into that experience. That is living in the feeling because you are approaching that with infinite possibility. Not with history. Not by dragging your pain. But by understanding what is possible. So 3 years today, good Lord. The first year, the end of the first year, we had just gotten the keys to this space. We had gone in and had these preliminary negotiations, and just on a lark, I said, can I have the keys to the building? I would love to teach class over there. Actually, they were in this room before anything was renovated. I said, I would just love for the people to be able to start to smell the air. Take ownership, become empowered, and get used to something that they could call theirs. That was the end of year one. Then last year, we were just moving out of, end of year two, we're moving out of the offices, and everything was packed up because this was a reality. And in 8 weeks, we would be celebrating opening Sunday. And now I look at year 3, and I think, whoa. At first, I'm going to just be real transparent with you. At first, I thought, well, this isn't such an auspicious anniversary because we appear to have some debt. We seem to be struggling with all of this. Part of my idea about going away in August was I need to step away so that individuals who are in a position of power can find within themselves the ways and the means to bring it up so that it doesn't seem like it's just coming from me all the time, but that it's coming from community. And if you look on paper, it looks and appears as though we weren't successful. And yet what I've learned this week is that if I live in the feeling and I know that it's here and if the solution already exists, then what I kept getting over and over again, I said, David, it's here. You just don't like the way and the time in which I'm bringing it. And I go, you're right. But what I understand was, you have to break it down. You said, do you have everything that you need today? Yes. And then the next day, do you have everything that you need today? Yes. And what I've come to realize in just these few short days is that that's a different playing field or part of the game. And that I've got to take my, as Emerson would say, my bloated nothingness out of the way and realize that it's already here and it's coming exactly as it needs to come. And so part of the take up thy bed and walk is to take up your bed as you're walking. Remember everything that has transpired in these 3 years. And don't negate any of that and keep walking. And if you do that, and if you stay faithful to that, then everything that we have envisioned as the center in the history of what it is that we are creating and the global presence that is already happening will all come exactly in the time and the space that it needs to happen. So, I'm going to stop talking about it. And I'm just going to sit and live and be in the expectancy of it. And it will happen. And that's truth, not just for here, not just for my life, but it's for your life as well. So we must live in the feeling and stop justifying all the times that we're not. So if you would close your eyes with me this morning. As you take that deep breath in, let us remember and know this one thing. We signed up for this. And in so doing, and in making that soul agreement to come and to have this adventure, we were equipped with everything that we need. We let go of the idea of failure because there is no failure. There is only manifestation. And we see that there are degrees of manifestation. So sometimes it feels like nothing is happening. But there is something happening. And then sometimes it feels as if there is a whirlwind of activity, of good that comes to us. But the truth is it's coming to us in cooperation with our participation, our mindset, our belief system. So in this moment now, we make an agreement to ourselves to practice living in the feeling of that solution that I crave and pray for. And I do it by one simple thing, and that is by saying thank you. I notice where I want to judge. I notice where I want to project and make others wrong. I know where it is that I look at a situation and I want to label it as bad. And in the noticing of those things, I stop and I simply say thank you. And I return to living in the feeling. I have already created success. I am a success. I am a child of that which is the intelligent universe, divine energy, source, God. That is me. I cannot be anything but that. And so I stop dishonoring that, and I begin right now to embrace and to caress and to love and to cherish it and to treat it as sacred, this beingness of me. And what I love is that when one of us does it, in some degree we all do it because we are connected. So let us unite together. Let us affirm in this moment now that everyone in this room does their homework. And that we leave this place today not with the information passing in one ear and going out the other, but that we leave with agreement, a soul agreement, that we will walk around in this perpetual state of gratitude. And we will begin to dismantle and dissolve all barriers and all blocks to that which is wanting to come and dance and be with us because we know that it is there. So in that agreement now, we lift this prayer, we raise it to that sacred light, and we release it as if we are releasing a dove, just like Noah released the dove, knowing that it will find a place to land. It will find a place to integrate into a new expression of rebirth and life. And we do that. And we keep releasing that dove of intention, that dove of gratitude. And we say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And together we say, and so it is.